Okay, we will start. 他没有 login，没有 login，所以没有 Zoom 今天，因为收不到，反正都收不到。全部上去网啊，我会一段的，你放，所以我们会把一段放上去，因为太大的话放不上去了，所以一段这样子。好 ，OK， 我们先开始。It will be in bilingual because everybody English Mandarin so we try to we try to be fair so we're going to be very casual. Any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, we may not have the best information, but feel free to ask. Okay, so this is really on the growing exhibition that we're doing from the 7th to the 14th, right? 7th to the 14th. So this exhibition is called Sojourners to Citizens, the Citizenship Journey. All right, 中文落地生根公民权之旅，其实它是一个巡回展。Okay, the main thing about it is that it's supposed to start here and then go to the other locations. So we'll be going to schools, going to community centers. Okay, where we choose the schools and community centers is based back on the early days when they were the registration centers. Okay, 登记处 的时候 Okay, right. So we'll go through this for today's session. Supposed to last 2 hours. But my session only 5 minutes, okay? So it'll be quite fast. Okay, I'll go through some of the information that we need to go through with regards to admin details and outreach. Then we'll give a background information on how this citizenship journey started off, right? Some background history of that. Then we'll go through the exhibition that is going to be placed here based on the panels as well as the artifacts. Then we'll go through why are we doing this, okay? Why we're doing this, and then what is the key delivery as well as highlights for the overall presentation. Then last but not least, we have Li Xuan coming on to share the design concept and layout. In fact, this will be the main attention, okay, to Li Xuan because this is her big project. All right. Then we also show you some of the layout of how it's going to look like in the auditorium. The actual exhibition is going to be at the auditorium, so we'll show you how it looks like, right? How it looks like. Last but not least, we'll give you additional information. This is for reference, so your stories can be added on onto these areas here as well. Okay, right. My side here is quite straightforward. The exhibition area, right? The exhibition area will be at level 2, right? Level 2, and it will be at the auditorium. It will be at the back of the auditorium. So when you walk into the auditorium, you will see the panels first. Right? You walk in, you see the panels first. Right? So that's one. The date of the exhibition will be from the 7th to the 14th. Okay, 7 is after 2 p.m. 7 is after 2 p.m. because the launch is from 10 to 1, right? 10 to 1. Then after that, 2 will start to open up to the public, right? The exhibition will be traveling to the other locations from the 15 onwards, right? 15 onwards. First 2 locations is Nanyang Girls High as well as Zhangde Primary School, right? Zhangde Primary School, these 2. Then we'll follow on by other locations with the community centers as well as other schools also, right? 学校跟community center is 联络所 okay? 联络所 the exhibition time for us here will be from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. 早上10点到下午5点。最后一场入门的是4点半。Okay, so there will be guided tour. 早上11点到12点是有中文的导览。下午是the other way around, right? The other way around. 11 to 12 is English guided tour. 3 to 5 is Mandarin guided tour. Okay, 下午的是3点到4点是中文的导览。不需要，我们会训练学生自己去带团。对 ，Okay, good question. Okay, 所以就是英文的导览是这样子，中文导览是这样子。我们会用 Eventbrite， 我们已经设了 Eventbrite 了，然后登记的人呢，我们会知道是当天会有多少人来登记。We will know from the Eventbrite how many people will be have registered with us, and then we will let the docent know who is on duty, how many groups are coming for the public tours. So far, okay? Quite straightforward, huh? Okay. Okay. I also want to bring across to you the information on the website. So if you look at these areas here, we have all the various information updated onto the website, right? So please check back on the website as often as you can. So in the website, you can see we have the various brief information as well as some of the highlights of the exhibits. Okay, then we will have the duty rosters, these areas here also, right? So we will update this table especially for the docents who will be volunteering, whether or not there will be a group coming in. Okay, then if you're coming in for the launch, it will be over here. Then the slides for today's session is uploaded here. It's a bit too big. I'll try to edit it, and then hopefully it can be previewed on the website itself.
Doesn't matter what it says you can't preview, you just download it.
Yeah, but some people don't need to download. Probably, yeah. Correct. So I can try to do that. I'll try to do that later. Okay. Yep. Okay. So that's all on my part. Anybody has any questions? Straightforward? Clear enough? Okay. Then I'll pass the time to Ting Hui for the historical setting. Yes, need mic.
Let's shift to my slide. Slide. So, hi everyone, good to see you here. The rest, I think, on recording. While Eric's helping me, right, I need to use about 30 minutes to convert the whole book into 30 minutes sharing. So for the rest of you, you can read Chinese. I recommend you to actually read it. Yeah. So it's a book published by Yi Zhi. Okay. So he's currently a retired researcher. So this is his PhD dissertation in Xiamen University. Okay, the theme, of course, is on a historic choice. Okay, campaign for citizenship by overseas Chinese in Singapore after World War II. 历史的抉择，二战后新加坡华侨争取公民权运动。So I would say our special exhibition, some of the raw material are also extract from this book, and there are two sources used by the author. One is Chambers Council meeting minute. Okay, basically what happened during in the 50s. The other part would be archival material from United Kingdom. So I think he used two different views to reconstruct the history of citizenship. So for today's 30-minute sharing, I will just quickly have a big picture before Li Xian go into detail what we actually present to our audience. Historical setting, yeah, later I think Li Xian will share more about our exhibition theme and star artifact and some of the story. So there are three concepts I would say when you try to guide and then share with your audience. One is journey, okay? So meaning sojourner to citizen, the citizenship journey. So the concept of journey, I think it can be an opening section when you share with your audience. When we talk about journey, so normally there is a starting point, from where to the other end. So in this case, I would say 1947, when Chamber first raised the issue of citizenship to the British colonial government. So that's the beginning of the journey. And at the end, 1957, about 10 years time, and then eventually we have the outcome, which is the passing of the Citizenship Ordinance. So that is the journey. So you can use the concept of journey. So along this journey, there are political struggle, different voices, how they view citizenship in general. Okay, so that's in terms of framework. The other concept we use is a gate. Okay, so I think Li Xian will share more. She actually smartly used one quote, from Lim Yew Hock, the chief minister at that time. Yeah. So once you cross over the door or the gate, yeah, you are from sojourners and then become a citizen. Meaning, once you step in, you go through a process, fill up the form, Sumba, then you become Singapore citizen. So as easy as that. So we are using this analogy, try to use it as a concept in the specification. The third one, I would propose that crossroad. When you come to a historical, choice, whether you want to be a Singapore citizen, or actually you can choose to go back to China or where you come from. So that's at the moment, a historical moment at that time in the 1950s. The local residents have to make a choice. So these three concepts might just help you to understand it a little bit more about the importance of this special exhibition. And overall to say, when we conduct this tour, right, the key message we like to highlight, of course, is from the early immigrant society, the Chinese, in the past, they are more like a 落叶归根, okay, like falling leaves, back to their roots. So returning to the Chinese roots, which is back to their hometown, the homeland. Yeah. And then after this citizenship journey, actually they chose to settle down, which is 落地生根, to settle down and establish their home in Singapore, in this place of land. So that's the key message we like to highlight. And of course, it's part of SG60 now, so it's about time for us to reflect this part of history. And next, there are some questions when we try to put up this special exhibition. So there are a few questions I think you can ask yourself, ask your audience during the tour. Why is it so important to talk about Singapore citizen or citizen in general? And what does it mean, citizen? So when we talk about citizen, of course, we talk about political right. When you come with political right, you need obligation as well. So these are some of the things for people to reflect and think about it, or even to discuss. And then we go into the historical context. Why did Chamber fight for citizenship? So in other words, they ought to encounter certain difficulties in political reality or situation. That's why they have to react. Yeah. So that is some of the reason we'll cover later. And then what were some of the main challenges they are facing, and then how did they overcome it? Okay, so these are the questions when you go through this journey. And there are a few stages, because it crossed over 10 years. Yeah. So what are some of the turning points? Yeah, this is another question we like to ask. And last but not least is what were the outcomes? Okay. So in short, 220,000 local residents, they were entitled to apply for citizenship. And the impact, of course, it led to 1959 self-governance. They can be their own master to choose their own government. So these are some of the questions I want you to keep in mind first while I continue my sharing. And when we look at the citizenship topic, so we can break into two aspects. One, of course, historical context, we talk about international level, right? So we all know that after Second World War, the Atlantic Charter, one of the key messages is the colonial government could no longer hold their power, so they have to let go, meaning it was a trend that to let the people to decide what they want. Okay, so this is the first point. You can bring it to a level to discuss this topic, in terms of the history of citizenship. And then the other one is we put Singapore into a regional context, meaning you cannot just discuss Singapore itself, because what happened in the region had its impact on the fighting for citizenship. And of course, after Second World War, we all know that the Malay Union first proposed by the British colonial government, but it was opposed by the Malay nationalism in Malay Peninsula in particular. Then they have to give up this plan and then go into the next one, 1948. They re-proposed the Federation of Malaya at that time. And what happened in 1949, just bear in mind the Malay emergency, the conflict between the communists and the British colonial government at the time, and followed by the Korean War, and then the independence countries around this Southeast Asia region. So they all have an impact when Chamber tried to fight for its citizen. So it's kind of like a push and pull, political struggle among the key players. I would share more later. Last but not least, I would say in April 1955, the Bandung Conference played a very significant impact, meaning when the new China actually no longer allowed dual citizenship. So when they make this statement, all the overseas Chinese, they have to make a choice, whether they want to go back to China or they have to find a way to settle down in their respective country. So these are some of the key factors, bear in mind when we look at the citizenship journey as well. Okay, so we will go into one by one. First, we have to answer why did the Chamber, want to fight for citizenship, and it cost about 10 years' time. So there are three, I would say, factors that we need to bear in mind again when we try to explain this complicated situation to the audience. First, of course, is the impose of income tax. After Second World War, the British actually faced the financial issue. So one way, of course, to increase the income tax in general, so you can have more revenue. And the Chamber tried to oppose it on behalf of the business community. And even the Legislative Council, most of them actually opposed this so-called income tax, but the British government had the veto power, meaning I wanted to do it, so everyone had to be quiet. So it becomes the first factor, you have to be involved in politics. Otherwise, you have no say in politics decision making. So this is a very direct impact on the business community, and Chamber was one of the key player in this sphere. So this is the first we can highlight. Second of which, in 1947, the British came with a new regulation, new law, indicating that non-British subjects, they were not allowed to be the public servant or go into the politics and be appointed as the council members. So it has also had an impact, meaning in the past, Chinese Chamber, Malay Chamber, India Chamber, normally they have a representative in the legislative council. But if you are not a British subject, you will not eligible to be appointed. So that's another impact. So in the case of Chamber, Lien Ying Chow was the one. In the past, he was not a British subject, but he was recommended by the Chamber and be appointed as one of the representatives in the government sector. But once this 1970, the new laws passed, so they oppose it, and eventually Chamber still recommend Lien Ying Chow, and then rejected by the British government. So again, it has a direct impact to the council member at that time. If you are not taking a stand and try to fight for citizenship, and then you will face similar issue in the future. So this is the second factor that has its impact. Third, in 1948, because of the Malay emergency, so the British tried to control the flow of people coming in and out. So the traveling, in particular, what we know today, re-entry permit, right? Re-entry permit for those aliens to come back to Singapore, they tightened up the policy. So in the past, once you apply, you can come in like 2 years' time. But with the 1948, so they shortened it, meaning you can leave this place and then in 3 months' time, you have to come back. Otherwise, you have to apply. And each time when you apply, you have to pay money. and then they also shorten the period. So they want to control, the people coming in and out to this small island. So it has to be only you are the citizens of this place, and it will be easier for you to travel. So later we also try to add more about that part. And historical context for another part is we can think about the significance of Singapore citizens, right? When we look at citizenship, what does it mean? Of course, first you can touch on political participation. Only you become the citizens of a place or country, then you can talk about voting right. Okay, then you can talk about you are eligible to be the candidate and to be elected. Yeah, so election is coming soon. It's a hot topic. Yeah, so we can share more about that. Yeah, it's not easy. It took 10 years for local residents to fight for it. Yeah, so precious. Every vote count. And then with the rights, of course, it comes with your obligation. Yeah, so you have to pay tax, and then you have to serve national service. Yeah, to protect your own country. So at that time in political reality, the chamber actually faced this issue, equality or principle of democracies. Why? One of the arguments back my chamber council member was all the Chinese businessmen, they have to pay tax. However, they didn't have a say in politics. Okay, so the British set up its political game. Only you became a British subject, then you are eligible to vote or to be elected. Okay, and the question is, if you are not a British subject, then you are nothing. So the question the chamber keep constantly submit memorandum and ask is that fair? Yeah, since all the Chinese have been here for age, and then more importantly, during the Japanese occupation, they also try to fight the Japanese invasion, and then they pay their political cost during the Second World War. So in that sense, they should be considered to enjoy the political rights. Yeah. So this is the political stance proposed by the chamber at that time. And democracy principle, of course, when you talk about British subject, there are certain criteria you have to fulfill before you can apply it. Yeah, so later we will touch on that part. What are some of the criteria, if you want to become a British subject? And as a historical choice, I would say in this book, a question come to my mind is, a campaign or a movement lasts about 10 years. It needs courage. Otherwise, when the British authorities say no, and you keep constantly to submit memorandum and ask for political rights from the British authority, it means something to this group of people. Okay, and also I would look at this from they took up the social responsibility because they have to fight for the ordinary people as well, not only for the business community themselves. Yeah. So when you look at another book written by Siko, I think he used two concepts to frame the different voices within the chamber itself. One is ambiguous, the other is the ambitious group of chamber council members. Okay, meaning when the British say that you can only apply for a British subject, with this setting, you no need to have a citizenship. Okay, why not you just opt for British subject? Why are you so constantly want this citizenship? Yeah, we allow you to join politics, to be participate in public affairs through this British subject. Why you still want to ask for citizenship? So some of the council members actually compromise, and then they say yes, as long as you just join the British subject, you can get what you want. You had hit your political goal. Whereas the other group of people like Tan Lak Sai, Lee Kong Chen, they will say, no, we want citizenship because it's a firm, standard. We want to be the master of our own. Okay, and for British subject, I would say they were more like English educated. Yeah, so they have no issue to master English, and then they are more comfortable to deal with the British authority. Whereas the more Chinese educated, they will say we would like to fight for citizen, yeah, and then be the Singapore citizen. So these are the two concepts actually you can try when you look at some of the material later. And of course, you have to take a stand, whether you support certain policy actually passed by the British authority at that time, or you would take a stand to oppose it. And also, this group of people, meaning the chamber or even other organization, whether they are actively involved or have the capacity to wait, for the British law come in to implement it. Yeah. So these are something, just bear in mind that as a historical choice at that time, they have to face it and then to actually encounter those situations and make a decision. Okay. Yes. British subject 英籍民，英国籍的，有什么不同呀？Li Shen will share with you what's the difference later. Okay. Yes.
英籍是英国的 so in the community here, Malays and Indians.
Yes.
Jointly with the other chambers.
That's a very common question will be asked by the audience as well, because we also ask the same question when we conduct the research. Okay, later we will touch on that part as well. Yeah. I will keep these two questions. Later we will come back for Q&A section. The next I would like to go into who was the key players at that time, from 1947 to 1957. Of course, when you look at this citizenship, you can't avoid London. Okay, they are the master of the British Empire. So the prime minister who were in power, whether it's a conservative or Labour Party, their worldview about it will decide what happened in general in terms of colonial policy.
The prime minister.
There are a few because it crossed almost 10 years. Yeah, from Churchill after Second World War. Yeah, then you have to deal with different prime minister. Later, when we talk about David Marshall, he flew to London. Yeah, and then Lim Yu Hock also flew there. Yeah, LKY also followed the trip. Yeah, at that time he was not the main character yet. Yeah. And then the Secretary of Colonial would take care of it. So meaning the British colonial government based in Singapore, the governor, they have to report to the London. Okay. Second of which, Singapore was part of Malayan. So the British Malayan actually include Singapore, the Brunei, Sabah, Sarawak at that time. And among them, it comes to the question, the Malay, the Indian, and the Chinese. They have different views about citizenship. When we talk about it in general, but the even Malay, we have to split it. The Malay supremacy, more the Malay nationalism, they were strongly opposite. Yeah, because all these then belong to the Malay to them. Yeah, why should we open up citizenship for the aliens? And it became a trade, when it comes to voting, election. And bear in mind that back in 1945, the population is almost half-half. Malay is about 50, the Chinese 40 plus. If you add in Singapore, yeah, it's almost equal to each other. So it always became a trade, to the Malay nationalism at that time. And the Indian, they have a little problem because the British Indian, followed by the British nationality, they were, as long as they're born in Indian, they became British subject. Yeah, so they have not that much issue Yeah. And the majority face this citizenship would be Chinese. Yeah. So bear in mind that the Qing government, they actually consider all the overseas Chinese, they are a citizen of the China. Yeah. So that became an issue when dual citizenship was not actually proposed by Zhou Enlai in 1955, the Bandung Conference. No longer allowed that. Yeah. And the Chinese, overseas Chinese, were always questioned by the local, people, their loyalty, whether they were loyal to this piece of land or they were be loyal to be it Qing government, later the Republican China, or 1949 become the new China. So these are the majority who will be facing the problem at that time. And even the Chinese, as we mentioned just now, the English educated and the Chinese educated, and also the local born, straight born Chinese, who have been here for a generation, and the newcomer, the Xinke, who came much later. They have China relation, they have their relative there. So they have different groups of Chinese, when it comes to this citizenship topic. The third, of course, we have to go into depth and talk about the Singapore, the British colonial government, the governance perspective, and how did they actually perceive, local people. Yeah. Li Shen will talk about, they were considered as aliens, foreigners at that time. And more importantly, I would say that political parties play a very important role. When you come to politics, it always had to rely on political parties. And so from 1945 onwards, there are few, so it's about time for us to go back and review political parties set up in the 1950s. Okay, Labour Party, Progressive Party, and just bear in mind at that time, it's only the lawyers and the doctor that became politicians, because not the elites in the society, right? Not everyone had the opportunity to go higher study at that time. So they represent Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce. Some of the Tauke also set up a democratic party at that time. So they were considered as millionaire party. Yeah. So they also joined the election as well. Yeah. At that time, but Chamber actually said that even though they were a council member, but they have nothing to do with the Chamber. So Chamber made it a very clear stand that business is business, and politics should not be involved, in the Chamber. Last, of course, is organization. So when it comes to organization, it's one level down, meaning the Chinese Clan Association, and then they also affect the school and also the business community. So this, I would say, they were all the players, in the field of citizenship movement. Yeah. So I think in our exhibition, we simplify it, and because of we can only have 7 or 8 panels plus the introduction and conclusion. So it's a very simplified version. But I would say that it's important to raise some questions for people to discuss or to reflect. Yeah. And let's go back again to talk about the politician soon after the Second World War. Yeah. So one question I didn't come back. The British colony, they have these British subjects versus aliens. So when we talk about British subject, before Li Shen share more about that, I will emphasize a few, in particularly the process to apply for British subject, and then what are some of the good, positive or negative, in terms of the perception of local Chinese, in particular the local Tauke. Then, while Singapore actually was quite clear, heading to self-governance. Yeah, here come the Singapore citizenship, and then last they were heading to independence. So when you look at political history of Singapore, and David Marshall actually tried to ask Singapore to be independent in 1957, April. Yeah, but it was rejected by London. Okay, 50.
Vivian Marshall,
Yeah,
56.
56.
Then you up 57.
Okay. Then at that time when he flew to London, I think he asked, Singapore should be independent earlier than what we know today, 1963. Yeah. So he asked earlier, but the British colonial government and also the London authority, right, they thought Singapore was not ready yet. Yeah. So when he came back with the date, he wanted, it did not happen, so he resigned. Okay, he quit. Yeah. And local people, they also supported, David Marshall, saying that it's a strategy used by the British authority to postpone the independent process of Singapore. So what I want to highlight here is from this book, from Dr. Lee, yeah. So you have highlight one point which is quite important when we talk about Singapore citizen. Before you obtain the independence, yeah, the concept of citizenship and Singapore citizenship is quite slightly different. Meaning, once you become independent, right, you have so-called full citizenship. Okay, but when you are still a British colony, it's a process toward independence. They can only allow you a specific title, okay, which is called Singapore citizen. And the main purpose is just for you to serve the following three. One, it allows you to participate in politics, meaning you are eligible to vote and then to be a candidate and also to serve as a public servant. Okay. So meaning the British subject, it was provided by the British authority, but the local people asked for citizenship. Why? Okay, we will come to the criteria of applying as a British subject later. Okay, so this is just to bear in mind the overall picture. Yeah, and the more complicated you understand it, and then you will feel it more interesting and more fun, at least to me. Okay, so when you look at the 10 years, from 1947 up to 1957, actually, Chamber at least proposed 4 memorandum to the British authority. First, 1947, soon after the Second World War, when Lee Kong Chian first proposed it, he actually realized that British was prepared to let go, Singapore, and then to heading to the self-governance and independence eventually. So he started to voice out, we need to have Singapore citizen, and then we can decide who to be chosen and then form the government. Yeah. And then this is 1947, and of course it was turned down by the government at that time. Yeah, so they have to aim, to the London at that. So in 1951, they proposed again another amendment. So later we will slightly touch on what are some of the proposals they put up for the British authorities to consider, and then why it was rejected, and then why did they continue to fight for it. And then the third one is 1952, yeah, November. The last one is 1955. So these are 4 milestones, I would say. And when you look at the British British authorities, how they actually react, and then towards these 4 proposals. And of course, in our special exhibition, we did not touch on that, in details. Yeah, But it would be good that if you are interested, you should try to look at it, the four turning point. Okay, so this is remember the framework, Atlantic Charter, 1941. In particularly the American and the UK, right? They have carrying and then they make this statement. American and British, they could no longer actually hold this colony, and then they have to let go. So self-determination became a very important message to the world, especially to the colony. They actually allowed them, to decide whether they want to be part of it or they will fight for their self-determination, meaning heading towards independence. So that set the beginning of the stage, soon after Second World War. And for this, I think it's a history review to let you have a quick look at it. So we just look at the white one, okay? The British came to Singapore in 1819, and then they set up this Malacca, Penang, and Singapore as a straight settlement. Yeah, so we have the straight-born Chinese, so it lasts from 1824 up to 1950s, when they have to deal with the citizenship soon after the Second World War. Okay, so what happened? I think, as I mentioned just now, okay, the British also try to put under one administrative for the Malay Peninsula under the British control, and then that's why they proposed the Malaya Union, okay, based in KL, and then Singapore was excluded, in the Malaya Union, and all of the Chinese and other races here, they oppose this. Singapore should be part of Malayan, as always. Yeah. And the main argument made by Lee Gong Chen at that time why Singapore shouldn't be excluded by the British. There are two things. One, of course, is rubber. The other would be the tin. Because when you exclude from the Malayan, yeah, it will heavily affect the Singapore's economic development at that time. Okay, so we all know that 1946, yeah. So they were heading to whether they want to join, be part of a Malayan Union, and then Malayan Federation of Malayan, and then more importantly, the 1957 citizenship. So we were heading to the self-governance. So it allowed the people to choose their own government. Yeah, and then of course come to the merger and then the independence. Yeah, so that is beyond our scope of roving exhibition, but just bear in mind the history part. Okay, when you come to this citizenship, of course, there are some key message we like to say. Of course, first is national identity. Okay, from sojourner to settler. So we can touch on that's the beginning. When we talk about the journey of Singaporean. So this is I would say the concept of Singaporean, yeah, should begin soon after the Second World War. Yeah, when we talk about the Singapore citizens. So this national identity and in 1955 have a legal framework to actually to know what we today understand it as a Singapore citizen. Yeah, and it also create a pathway, for Singapore's heading to self-governance and then later on independence. Yeah, and the third one, political and social inclusive, meaning the chamber fight for citizenship is not only for the business community, but in general, they allow the local resident, to be involved in the process of local politics. Yeah, so these are some of the things when you conduct the tour. At the end, you can always bring it back, to let the visitor to reflect it. And this part, we'll go a little bit detail into this book. I just select a few pages and then to let you know. So soon after Second World War, when the British Malay, they talk about the Malayan. What is Malayan? Not in general. And I would say that in Singapore, they also try to discuss, what do they know as what make a Singaporean. Okay, so citizenship became one of the aspects that we can look at it. So Chamber fight for it, right? Actually, they try to argue it from the equality, for local people, regardless of the races. So meaning whether you are Malay, Indian, or Chinese, we all pay tax, right? So we should have the political right, to vote and then to be elected, as a politician, to join the government. So that is the beginning of the journey. And what is more interesting when you look at the different memorandum, just bear in mind, those numbers, it always come. Whether you should stay in Singapore 15 years, and then at least 5 years, you're constantly in Singapore itself. So you will see, later on, you will see a lot of this slot, 15, 5, 10, 8, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It just highlights that during the process of negotiation, political struggle, and political power between different parts, and Chamber constantly try to highlight, right from the beginning, it say as long as you stay in Singapore, minimum 5 years, Chamber asks for, you are allowed to join as a citizen. As simple as that. But of course, rejected by the colonial government at that time. So later they allow it to be 10 years. Can we have 10 years? And then will you be pleased let us to be eligible to apply? And of course, the British still say no. Okay, so they have a constant, back and forth to talk about this. Yeah, and more interestingly, I think right from the beginning, 1947, they also talk another factor about the criteria, talk about the language. Yeah, so the British colonial government insists, if you want to apply, be it, of course, at that time it's the only British subject. You have English is the only criteria you must fulfill it. If you don't understand English, then so sorry for that. Yeah. So Chamber was fighting, English to be one of it, but it should allow other language to come in. So he explained later on 1955 and then up to 1957, Chamber also fight for different language to be used in the parliament. And eventually it happened. Okay. So the argument made by the Chamber was very clear. Language shouldn't be a barrier for the person to represent his own group. Okay, so that is the main argument. As long as the person represent Chinese or Malay, they should have the right to use their own language. Of course, English should be the official one. So that's why Singapore allowed 4 language, official language at the end.
On and also the so what would the position subjects and non-subjects? Because I hear Chico is fighting for the rights of all Chinese or all Chinese, but who was fighting for the rights?
Okay, so it's a similar question to.
Sorry.
Okay. Never mind. Later we will collect. I think at least 2. We will come back to that part. Let me finish. I think I have a few more slides. Yeah. Okay. This is language. We talk about the duration. How long should you stay? So it varies from different time, different period. We have to keep asking for it. Yeah. Okay. 15. I think the longest should be 20, 15, 10, 8, 5. Yeah. So these are number. Page down. Okay, so again, Chamber proposed another one. Okay, as long as 10 years period of time, you stay 8 years, then you should be allowed to apply for it. And then they also add some other criteria. For instance, during the time you apply for it, at least the 12 months, 1 year beforehand, you have to physically stay in Singapore. And then the third one, unless you travel, yeah, so you can excuse for that, yeah, and you must show your loyalty to Singapore, okay, and you also have to renounce, your loyalty to another country, which refer to your motherland at that time. So these are some of the criteria the chamber put it into a proposal and then submit as a memorandum to the British government. Of course, yet it was rejected. Okay. So come back to British subject. So this is the argument made by the British authority most of the time. Since we have this British subject framework, why are you still asking for citizenship? Okay. So what are some of the criteria? If you want to become a British subject, these are the few items are listed by this book. Yeah. First, of course, you have to be physical stay in the place, 12 months, and then the duration, 7 years. Yeah, 1 year before, you have to be here, and then you must have a good characters. You should know English. Yeah, so these are some of the criteria that for you to become a British subject. If you are not born in British, or UK, yeah. If you are born in the colonies, yeah. So these are some of the criteria. Okay. And then in the so-called the manuscript, they also highlight the process to apply as a British subject. Okay. And first, you have to you have to be 20 years old here, okay, adult, and then good character, and you have to stay there 8 years and then fulfill 5 years. So you come back again, you have to be here for 5 years. More importantly, you need to find 4 reference. Yeah. So that will be one of the difficulty for ordinary people. Meaning, if you are a coolie or labor, yeah, it was very difficult for you to find 4 social status who actually can be your sponsor. Yeah. So this is first criteria. I would say it excludes quite a number of people. Yeah. Second of which, when you talk about applying British subject, right from rigging, it costs you $100. Yeah. So it's a huge amount to ordinary people. And then later they reduce it to 40, and then they reduce it again. Once the different group of people try to flag this issue, it was so difficult to become British subject. Yeah. And the other thing they also highlight, if you want to become a British subject, you need to advertise on newspaper. Yeah, to show your loyalty, to let everyone know that you actually want to be a British subject. Yeah. So if you want to advertise it, you need to pay, advertisement. Yeah, also another cost. Yeah. But later you will find it quite interesting. They actually how did the British authority react those complaints from the local people. Yeah. So they reduced the applying application fee. Yeah. So because of the criteria set by the British authority, right? Yeah, from 1947 onward up to 1955, you can see that among the population in Singapore is only a few hundred people applying as a British subject. Yeah. So why? Yeah. So in this book, actually, they help us to summarize a few factors why people don't want to be a British subject, back then. Yeah. But there are some advantage that you apply for it. Yeah. For instance, you will be protected by the British authority, because you are a British subject. When you travel overseas, if you have any accident or what, the British had to step in and to protect you. Yeah, and you are doing a business overseas, again, you are protected by the UK because you are a British subject. Yeah, but because of the criteria set, was quite high. Yeah, so not many people actually can become British subject, especially if you don't know English at that time. Okay, so you explain partially, and the other factor, mentioned by a lot of local people, even some of the council members, they actually use Chinese culture and custom to explain why they did not want to become a British subject. First, when you apply successfully, you have to sumba, to be loyal to the king or queen of, the Britain, the UK, So to a lot of local Chinese, to certain extent, they, I think their affiliation still towards the emperor or the Guangxi at that time, even later the president, So that explains one. Second of which, they feel quite embarrassing. Once you advertise it on newspaper that you apply for citizenship, right? Once you approve, people will know that you actually loyal to the Ang Mo. So even though when you do business, you have some advantage, but in Chinese people, the old thinking, you are Chinese, and then yet you so close to the white people. So that's another thing. And thirdly, if you are rejected by the British colonial government, or not qualified, and also the one who apply for the British subject, they will feel no face. So that's another factor highlighted by actually this book. So that's explain a few factors why local people they did not want to join as a British subject at the time. Okay. Oh, this is the last slide I have. Okay, good. And I think Li Xuan later have another table to talk about what are the good and positive and negative as a British subject. Later we will come back to that. So to answer PJ's question, when we try to discuss citizenship as the coming exhibition, right? So one question always asked, is that all applicants at that time, they're all Chinese? They apply not any to Malays or other nationality, Eurasian, From some of the footage we show later, you can see there are some Indian and also Malay, taking off and sign as a Singapore citizen. Why? Okay, so if you are born in Malay Peninsula or the British colony at that time, including Singapore and Brunei, normally you have a Malay, you are the so-called subject of the Sultan. So you actually have no issue. You will automatically become the citizen. So back in the Malaya Union, Federation of Malaya, they all include the local born Malay, even local born Chinese, no issue. So the only group that will be affected is you are not born in Singapore or Malaya, you are immigrant from another country. So it comes to the question, the duration, whether you should stay here for 15 years, 10 years, and then physically you have to be here 5 or so it comes to the discussion among the different party. For the Indian, we just now mentioned because the British India, according to the law, right? Once you are British Indian, the British authority allowed them to become the British subject. So they also don't have the issue as well. So as long as you are British subject and you turn to the Singapore citizen, right, they also allow you to apply for it. So it's a issue of eligibility, whether they expand it a little bit wider, or they make it close, narrower for you to make it difficult to apply for it. So that's why chamber fight for 8 years. Yeah, and I think from the experience from the Malayan experience, right? Yeah, which is happened in Malaysia at that time. Yeah, and they also allow those who migrate from another country, in particular referring to the Chinese, they stick to 8 years. So eventually, the Singapore Lim Yew Hock government, David Marshall, they discussed among the political parties. They all agree into the 10 years. Yeah, but Chamber constantly fight for 8 years. Yeah, and eventually, the government took the position that when you calculate, in terms of administrative perspective, when you calculate from 1948 up to the law was passed in 1957, if you consider 8 years, right, which means from 1948 onward, the local residence document issued by the government, right, they automatically become eligible to apply for the citizenship. Yeah. So overall, to say, once passed the law in Parliament, right, there were about 302,000 residents apply for the Singapore citizens. Yeah. And only 220 was granted the citizenship right. So meaning there were some, because you did not submit your information correctly, or you were rejected by the government, for whatever reason. Yeah. So that one, the Singapore government, at that time, Lim Yew Hock government, right, as the chief minister, he has the right to actually make the final decision, but they have to consult a group of people, if they want to reject any case, when they apply for the citizen. Yeah. Yeah. So I think
The cabinet ministers also rather than the government already apply,
when they when they serve at the government, right, they also have to apply for the citizenship. Yeah. So the first one is the Ministry of what minister? I think the one Indian, right? Yeah, he has to convert into Singapore citizen. Yeah. So later, I think from the footage you can see a few of them. Yeah. Okay. So two question. Yeah. So I will end it up here. Yeah. Or if you are locally born, right? When you go to the hospital, they will issue a birth cert. Yeah. Yeah. If you are locally born. Yeah. So for those who travel from outside Singapore, right, they need a landing permit. Yeah. So later we also have a few artifacts about that. So you will give you a sense. And bear in mind, you are from China, right? The Republican government, be it the Kuomintang, or later on the communist, the People's Republic of China, right? They also issue you a travel document for you to go out from China. Before you enter Singapore, you also have another document. So this special edition, we actually have a few on loan items to showcase that. Yeah. So what we lead with this traveling document, it lead you to the stage that when you come to this 1957, once the law was passed, yeah, whether you want to apply for the citizenship. Yeah. So this is the journey we are referring to. Okay, I hope this is a big picture. Yeah, and we will stop here for 5 minutes. You have a short break, then we'll come back to the exhibition content. Okay?
The timeline.
Yeah.
The